I'm going to give you some more game on how we need to pay attention to interest cost instead of interest rate. This is an interest cancellation masterclass. And when you understand interest cancellation, you will not make the mistakes that are commonly made because we're following the advice of experts. We've heard it for years. Here's another one. I need to put this on the screen. I have a $500,000 loan on the $500,000 mortgage at 7%. And right now, here's what you're hearing. Marry the house, but date the rate. Meaning, if you can afford this payment, when the rates drop, and they will drop, refinance and get into the lower rate. I'm telling you, that is not an automatic. It's not automatic that you're going to be putting yourself in a better position. Most of my clients, if they have a 7% interest rate and they can afford the payment, you're better off with the 7% rate than you are at the 5% rate. Remember, everything that you've learned about this is backwards. Everything you learned about this, don't pay attention to it because they have not given you the numbers. You just assume that the 5% is better than the 7. Let me show you what we're talking about here. So at 7% on a $500,000 loan, here are how the payment breaks down. $409.84 goes to principal. $2,916.67 goes to interest. Here's what I need to tell you. Two things. When you control the principal payment, you control the loan, and interest payments I skip don't matter. When you control the principal payment, you control the loan. So let me show you what I mean by this. If you make that very first payment, then here's what we're talking about. $409.84 goes to principal, $2,900 went to interest. Now look at payment number 2, $412.23 goes to principal. What if, I'm just showing you, if you made payment number 1 and you paid the principal early for line 2, let's say you make your January payment and February's principal payment is $412.23. If you prepaid all of that, the $412.23, it would all go to principal, and you would eliminate line 2 from your schedule, line 2, and it would save you $2,900 in interest you never have to pay. And your next mortgage payment for February would be on line 3 of this schedule. That's how it works. So let me show you what would happen if you were offered a 5% loan instead. Because some of you, you're offered a refinance when the loan drops, or you're offered the ability to pay the bank extra money to lower the rate now. Let's say you could pay the bank $11,000 to lower the rate to 5% now. All right. It's not that you need the lower rate. You just want it. You don't need the lower payment. You just want it. That's going to be the distinction here. If you need the lower payment, then by all means, do what you have to do to get it. Okay. So here's what we're talking about. So we're going to show you what happens on a $500,000 loan. All I have to do is come up with $412 to eliminate one payment on the second payment. We're going to duplicate this tab. We're going to change the rate to 5% and then show you the payment. Ooh, the payment dropped to $26.84. And I need you to take a look at the principal payment now. Look what happened to the principal payment. On this loan at 5%, if I want to get rid of one payment on this loan, I have to come up with $603 now, not the $412. So if I have the smaller principal payment, I'm in better control of this loan. So in 1 year, I need to show you 1 year's worth of payments on this loan, 12 months worth. I will pay this loan down by $5,079 and a penny. Let's just say, now again, this is not my program, but I need you to see what would happen if you did do this. If you had the money available and you could prepay the $5,079 and knocked off 11 payments you never have to make and get here in 1 month, okay? You knock off 1 year's worth of payments and save $31,900 $949.52. That's how much interest you save. Okay. With $5,079. Let me show you something. When you lower the interest rate, that $5,000 only takes about 8 or 9 payments off. The same $5,000 takes about 8 or 9 payments off instead of 12. The people who own the bank understand this very well. Not only that, but they're going to charge you $11,000 to get the lower interest rate. I need to show you what they just did now, and I need you to break this down totally. So you pay $11,000 to get the lower interest rate. So now if you take the 7% loan, here's what the bank is looking for. And here's why it's this important, because 9 out of 10 people you know will never pay off a mortgage. So if that is the fact, I'm going to bring up my calculator. And here's what just happened. They've signed a mortgage to say, you're going to pay back $697,000 on this $500,000 loan, meaning that means that loan is really 139%, not 139. All right. So now the bank wants $697,000, and most people will pay that. Okay. Or more, $543.60. Now the bank says you can do this loan. If you give us $11,000, we'll give you the lower interest rate. Okay. And here's what they did for just $11,000. Okay. You tell me if it makes sense. If I get the 5% loan, now over the 30 years, they want $466,279. So we're going to subtract that. Okay. We're going to subtract $466,279.60. We're going to subtract that. Folks, that is a difference of $231,000. $231,000. Does it make sense for the bank, who would lock you in at 7% if you could afford it, but offer you a lower interest rate for just $11,000 so they can lose $231,000? Does it make sense for them to do that? Listen, folks, if you had a business and somebody was working for you and they said, boss, listen, I got them to pay us $11,000, but overall, your business is going to lose $231,000, but I got you $11,000 up front. Would you fire that employee? I just need to hear it. Come on, talk to me.
Yep.
Why does the bank do that? They're only charging $11,000 so they could save $200. Listen, folks, they're going to make so much more money on that other loan because you came in there talking about, how can I get out of debt faster? So they're going to give you something that makes you think you're saving money and getting out of debt faster, when in fact, you just made the loan harder to pay off sooner and cheaper. That's
smoke and mirrors,
It is smoke and mirrors. It's always been that. And listen, and don't get fooled into getting anything less than a 30-year mortgage. Listen, what if we took this 5% loan? We're going to now duplicate this tab. We're going to take the new 5% loan that we just got, all right? And we're going to do something else. Not only did we pay to get the 5% loan, but we paid so we could get a 25-year loan instead, okay? So let's get a 25-year loan instead of 300 payments. Or maybe we'll just go ahead and get it down to a 20. Ooh, okay. Let's go all the way to a 20. That's got to be better than a 30. So I'm going to put the calculator on the screen here. 20-year loan, 20 times 12 is 240. We got 5% at 240 months, okay? So we're at 2684, and now we're at 3299 because we got that 20-year loan. So we're going to be done in 20 years, all right? And now we take a look at the principal payment. We got 5%. Look at the principal payment now. Look at this. Did you see what they just did to you? They just doubled your principal payment. So now to get rid of one line, you got to come up with double the money. Who has double the money to get out of debt even faster? So all you're going to do is stay in the loan for 20 years and think, oh, it's better than the 30. But folks, if you had the 30 and you work with us, you'd be done in 7. That is what we're talking about. Stop letting people give you the numbers on the front end without telling you the results of what happens on the back end. If you want to know why the bank offers you lower interest rates, why they offer you lower payment terms, why they're offering you a way to save money, because all you have to do is ask yourself this question: if I'm saving money, who's losing money? Just ask yourself that.
But Don has some valuable information that can contribute to the quality of a person's life. And it only costs you a few dollars. It's his book. Why not get that?
I'm going to go through the P.I.L.L method myself with some of my investment properties. So I'm going to link up with Don, and then I'm going to sit down with him, show him my investment portfolio, and see how I can eliminate interest.